February on some of these. I never know if I'm supposed to. Usually the one can receive them because the planning commission usually meets one more time. But these don't have one. That's how she likes it. Yeah, I don't know if she likes them like that. I just use my calendar. Josh can't do it anymore. I started with
This is the only time we get young smiling faces is when someone needs a signature.
Most of the time it's disgruntled.
That's right.
You have Colin, Mrs. Lizzie's class. Come on up and get our things signed, please.
Are we supposed to get all three counts?
Okay, where's my friend Jeff? I thought he was with you.
Tony?
Oh yeah, that's an unusual one.
My dad's named Tony.
You mean my dad Tony, my uncle Tony, my cousin Tony?
Girls for them because our kids. Well, I don't. Okay, but we'll have the city manager take care of it.
their signatures, or you just...
Yeah, I know a couple Tonys, a couple Joes.
I'll talk to Mr. Blitz, because we've been working together, so, give me, where's my pen?
Yes, ma'am.
Where's my pen?
We'll just send them right on down the line. Just make sure you get the right one at the end.
7 o'clock?
In the morning. In the morning.
Okay, good, because I can't find
Yeah, put me down 7, that's 7 to 10, right? So 7 to 9.
Thank Mr. Bliss
Yeah, I'll be there.
very much, because we've been working back and forth on this. So. Okay. Okay, now. You'll figure out the agendas later. Just get the people signed first, okay? Then we can work with the agendas. I might bring some extras over to you kids if you need them. The main thing is getting the signatures.
They're online as well. You guys can download the agenda from our website.
I'll bring this one here. Tomorrow or so. Do you like, sir? Okay, I need some more signatures for you. Sure. Yeah, Mr. Bliss, because we were, the council was concerned that you needed to come early, so we're getting you in here early. But I forgot to tell the council you were coming, so we got half of it done. Any more? Now have Joan Paul's signature on it. Mr. Mooneyham, did you get these signed?
I signed all of them.
Okay, great, we're trying to get it then.
That's it.
Ready to need my signature. Ladies, if you need some copies of that agenda, take one copy or so, and if you run out,
Another line, so I guess,
Mrs. Dukes, or
Thank you.
we'll be glad to run that for you, okay? So if you need some additional agendas.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other people from Buhat Colony?
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Because it's 5:59.
Where's our signature? There he is.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome.
You have to stand up and
Gentlemen. Oh. see you. You're doing well. You're looking good. You're looking good. I don't know about that.
Looks like there's some issues.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Good, okay.
The 2.5.
All right, do we have this, Rivera? Is this all that's coming, or do we have more? Okay, this is it. Okay, great. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Six p.m. on March 10th, 2014, I call to order the City of Atwater City Council. So please, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mayor Pro Tem Craig Mooneyham. Remain standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our loving Creator, we come before you tonight thankful for all the blessings that you have given each one of us and the blessings of our city. We thank you for your spirit that has gone before us and blessed this room, that as we come together in harmony. We ask that you be with the Rivera and Wells families and to bless them and to be with them as they go through their grieving. And we ask, Lord, that as we approach this season of spring, that we do so with renewal of mind and heart, and knowing full well that this is a season of renewing and new life, and that we may truly be open to one another. We ask that you bless our city council in their endeavors and in all the decisions that they have to make for us, and that they may do so to the benefit of our city. We thank you and praise you in the name of the one who loves us all. Amen.
Thank you. First, I would like to welcome Mr. Bliss's senior government class and Mr. John Bliss from Buhack Colony. And Mr. Bliss and I have been emailing back, so we'll try to get the signatures for you. So we appreciated you coming tonight, and it worked out well. And if you need an agenda, I will see Mrs. Dukes here, and the assistant principal secretary. She would be glad to help you, because Mrs. Dukes and Mrs. Benoit have been working with Mr. Bliss. So we just appreciate you coming to our city council meeting. Start with roll call.
Bergman,
Here.
Mooneyham,
Here.
Jeff Rivero, Joe Rivero,
Here.
Fall.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Next item on the agenda, the approval of the agenda as posted or as amended. At this time, for the city council to remove items from the agenda or change the order of the agenda. City council persons, is there any person who wishes to change the order of the agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
So by Mr. Bergman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mooneyham. Mr. Joe Rivero.
Yes, I just had a question. May I pull something for the consent calendar, or should I wait?
Yes, we'll wait, because
Okay.
we'll get, when we get to the consent calendar, that's a separate item in itself.
Right, I wanted to be clear.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Bergman, a second by Mooneyham. Call for the question.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I apologize. have I have a secret pin that I need, and I cannot find it for just one moment. So can you give me that pin back that you had? Please. Here you go. Thank you. Could you give me a piece of paper, please? Yes, just a sheet.
Here, take this.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is notice to the public. Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Okay. You're right. Thank you. Okay, now, we're going to do, we're doing the presentations. We're going to do these a little different than what appears on the agenda. We're going to move Mr. Rivera to the second part, and we're going to move Robert Wells to the beginning of he will be the first person that I will present to. So we adjourned the City Council in honor of Robert Wells Sr. on November 12th. Mr. Robert Wells Sr. has made such a wonderful contribution to our community as a local law artist, a local real estate person with his wife. They worked as a partnership. He was a beloved school teacher, and his served as a decorated United States Air Force military service, what service that he did for our country, and I think that he served at least 22 years. Is Robert Wells Jr. in the audience? Please come forward, please. Where's my stick? Okay. Mr. Wells, would you please come up here? I have to say that Miss Fall has had a little problem with right over here, sir, known as old age. And so Miss Fall, Mayor Fall, I guess, is now the prime patient of Dr. Aguilar and Dr. Keller. And so starting 2 weeks ago, Wednesday. So with that, sir, I appreciate, Mr. Wells, your coming up here and receiving this honor. And this is Robert Wells Jr. Is that correct, sir? Okay. You should, and his mother is Lois Wells, and she is, and this was a short notice thing. She would have been here if she had a little bit more notification, but but anyway, so she had another commitment, but she's here in spirit. Now, Mr. Wells, we adjourned the meeting in honor of your father on November 18th. And so I have a proclamation to read to you, sir, and you will present this to your mother and your other, pardon me, let me ask you this. Let me have you tell us how many siblings you have, and if you would please.
I have 3 sisters and a brother, and a whole slew of grandkids, and so.
And I apologize to the council, you had signed this, or we had approved this on November 12th, but due to Ms. Fall, due to the post office department, and due to some other circumstances, fortunately, we are a very small community, and I talked to Lois on Sunday, and I said, Lois, did you receive the proclamation that we adjourned in your husband's honor and she says, no, Miss Fall, I didn't receive it. I said, oh, okay. We will make sure that we get it to you at the next meeting. So, Mr. Wells, the City of Atwater City Council adjourned their regular meeting of November 12, 2013 in memory of Robert Wells Sr. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the council and the citizens of Atwater for what a wonderful contribution your father made for the city of Atwater and for his service to our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now you notice that I handed this certificate off to this young man. I'm no longer responsible for this certificate. So, Mr. Wells, I thank you very much. And the city manager thanks you also because he was a little upset with me because I kind of lost the first one. Thank you very, very much. I would like the Barney Rivero family to come up, please. Mrs. Rivera, please come forward. And she has 2 daughters with her, and one granddaughter. Please come up. And any other Rivera family that's in the audience, please come forward. Maybe Mr. McBride, maybe you could bring this chair up here for Mrs. Rivera, because I think Mrs. Rivera and I have the same problem right now. So if you want to bring a chair, and just a minute, we'll help you up, Mrs. Rivera. Where's somebody else? Yes, thank you, Bill. Come right up here. You have a seat right there, Mrs. Rivera. Thank you. Okay, now, there. You're the daughter, she's the granddaughter, but then how many brothers and sisters do we have?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is Veronica. This is my niece, Andrea. She is my youngest brother's daughter.
And I had, I think 5 out of, how many of the Rivera children attended Atwater High School?
All of us.
Yes. Thank you. Mrs. Rivera, how old is Mrs. Rivera? 85. 85. And Barney, when he passed, was? 82. 82. Okay. So this Rivera family, and I happened to attend a wonderful ceremonies put on by the county, was it statewide or of the Knights of Columbus. They put on a beautiful recognition dinner for Barney because he was so outstanding in the Knights of Columbus. And so I attended that, and then anyway, so Miss Fall, so she said, oh my, I must get this taken care of. So with that, we have developed a proclamation for you, because Barney also served on our traffic commission. So we were very proud of what the service that he gave to our city. So with that, and Mrs. Rivera, and we will adjourn to his honor at the end of our meeting, okay? But we wanted to bring you first, read the proclamation, and then if I adjourned it now, we wouldn't have a meeting. So we can't do that. But knowing Barney, he would love that, because he would laugh at Miss Fall and he'd say, Miss Fall, you're at it, because Barney and I always had something going, and we're both wanting to do the best we could for our community. With that, I'd like to read you the proclamation. 1931, Barney was born, and he passed on 2014. Barney Rivera. Barney was born August 20th, 1931, to Trinidad and Juanita Rivera. That's not how you say that, but we'll keep moving. In Sparks, Nevada. He served his country in the United States Air Force for 21 years, retiring as a senior master sergeant. He then worked in civil service another 21 years and retired as a major from the Army Reserve. Barney was very civic-minded, served as a fourth-degree knight in the Knights of Columbus, as president of the Northern Central Knights of Columbus, as a member of the California Civil Air Patrol, as a member of the Atwater Witten Lions Club, longtime volunteer with the Merced County Sheriff's Department, Clio, Explorers, commander of the VFW, 30 years member of the American Legion, as president, chairman of the food booth for both the Atwater 4th of July Committee for 20 years, as board member of the Central Valley Opportunity Center for 12 years, with REACT organization. He was honored to be the Grand Marshal of the Atwater 4th Parade, and he was also the Atwater Christmas Parade. So he has just done so much. Barney affected so many young lives during his time of volunteering in tough love projects for the juvenile defenders at the Merced County Public Defender's Office. He also served his church, his community at St. Anthony's Catholic Church as an usher for many, many years. Barney served on the Atwater Traffic Commission for 11. And Barney will be remembered as a family man who was there to help anyone who needed him. Barney could always be relied on. I, Carol Joan Fall, Mayor of the City of Atwater, do hereby offer our condolences to family, friends, to the communities Barney served. He was a great man, an outstanding citizen, dedicated to the cause of making the world a better place and improving the quality of life for everyone. With that, I just want to thank you very much for coming. Thank you. It's been a privilege to know you and work with you. Oops, just a minute. Hold on. I got to sign it. Do I sign it now? Or do I? Yes, I can sign it now, right? Yes. Okay. I just want to thank you, Mrs. Rivera, so much for allowing Barney, giving him the time to help our community and help the people, because you know what? It takes two to do that. You have to provide the home and the willingness so that he can go out and do his thing. So thank you, and thank you for coming on such a short notice, and I really thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure to know you and work with you for all these years, and that will definitely continue. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Joseph, they can go. We'll just go ahead. What an honor. Those two gentlemen served our city so well. We just want to thank them so much for their service to our community. Next item on the agenda is notice to the public. At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. Please state your name and address for the record. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on a future agenda. to comment on an item that's on the agenda, please wait until till the item is called on the agenda. Wait for it to be called, and then when you wish to speak on it, please come to the back and wait, and then I know that you wish to speak on that item. We read for. Then please remember you have a limit to comments to 3 minutes. Our first person is Gloria Perez, and she is from the Love Atwater Committee. Gloria, would you please give your name and address, please?
My name is Gloria Perez, 301 Marvis Drive, Atwater, 95301. Well, as you see, I have a big sign here. I don't know if you guys seen these signs around. Please tell me you have. Okay. Love Atwater, those of you that don't know what Love Atwater is about, they only give me 3 minutes, so I'm going to try to say it as fast as I can. Basically, it's getting a group of people to love on their city. Love Our City started back in Modesto, and they have over thousands of volunteers now. This is our second year here here in Atwater. Right now, I have actually over 100 volunteers that want to love on their city. We can't do it by ourselves. We need the community to say, you know what, we love our city, we want to give back to the community. So this is actually what Love Atwater is all about. It's basically going out there, getting these volunteers and going out there and pulling these weeds, going out there and giving back to the community, if it's food, if it's hygiene, anything to just say, hey, we're here. We hear about there's so much negativity, there's so much wrong, and there's so much bad things happening. It's time for us as a city to say, you know what, we can, as one, if all these people, we can get together as a team and do something for our city. So that's basically what Love Atwater is about in a nutshell. We have twice a year that we love on our city. We have the event, which is April 5th, coming up. We're going to start at Ralston Park and basically have a rally at Ralston Park. And then after everybody goes out and loves on their city, like I said, pulling weeds or whatever that project is, they're going to come back to the Ralston Park, and we're going to have a rally and basically a little music in the park. And we have volunteers, over like 15 volunteers that are going to feed the volunteers that went out there. So it's amazing event, if you want to sign up to do something, all you have to just go to loveatwater.com and then sign up for a project. Like I said, we have like about 10 projects there that we're loving on.
Thank you. One thing we have, just a moment, Councilman Mooneyham. Councilman Joe Rivero, I've asked him to serve as our speaker on that day. And what time does it start?
Well, you were there last year. We're going to start we get there like at 8:30 in the morning, and then we rally everybody, get everybody going and pumped up. So that's when we would need Joe Rivera to come out there by that time, 9 o'clock. Then everybody's out there doing their project and coming back. So
Okay,
yeah.
so you need him there at 8:30.
Correct.
Thank you. Councilman Mooneyham.
Thank you, Mayor. You can also suggest projects for Love Atwater to perform
You're
on
ready.
the website, correct?
Yes, but let me tell you this, is that right now, I've been talking to Patrick at the parks, so him and I, for about a month and a half, been going back and forth, and he's been awesome. So we do, like I said, have it twice a year. Therefore, if you don't get the project on April 5th, we'll be back again September 28th. And we're going to be doing this as long as I'm praying that we're going to be doing this for years to come. And I just, the community is a big part of it. This is their city. Some people have gripes about this and that, but it's time for just to put those in your pocket and go and help out.
Thank you.
Councilman Joe Rivero.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I want to show my appreciation to you and everyone else involved, because I was out there And it's a fun activity. I encourage, we have a lot of students from the high schools. Come on out, it's a good time. You can work with others. I worked with a lot, especially in the school district where we were cleaning up an area. And it's a good time for all. You're out there, you're having a good time with friends. You're sweating together. I mean, and you're doing something to clean up the city. So I want to thank you and everybody that's putting this together. I hadn't heard anything for a while, so I was hoping that you guys are still around in strength. So
Yeah, I'm the
thank you very
project
much.
coordinator, so yeah.
So,
Thank
all right,
you.
Thank you.
I want to compliment Gloria Perez for such an outstanding job as project coordinator. And I want to thank Patrick Ferretta, and I would assume that young man behind him has also been helping us. Yes, Dan, on this. So we just want to, on behalf of the citizens of Atwater, we want to thank you. And you said September 28th is the next one.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes, if that's on a Saturday. I don't have
That's
a
on
calendar for me.
Is that on a Saturday? Okay. Thank you very,
Okay.
very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, I see next speaker is Mr. Price.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council members, Jim Price, 3467 Village Woods. Before I begin, Madam Mayor, will item number 4 on the agenda have comment available to that?
Item number 4.
Yes.
Item number 4, when we get to the consent calendar, then we will be able to tell you whether we will have comment on it or not. But that's part of the consent calendar. So when I open up the consent calendar and you will be able to comment on it at that time.
Ordinance for a second reading is a consent calendar item?
That's correct. It's on the consent calendar.
Okay, very good. Madam Mayor, City Council members, and ladies and gentlemen in the audience, one of the things I just had an email type of conversation with Councilmember Mooneyham over this, but I noticed that it came to my attention that water discharge from the water treatment plant, the effluent water, just slightly below potable, is going to Gallo, and the city isn't retaining any revenue for that. And if that's in fact the case, I would highly recommend that that be looked at and try to capture some revenue from that, given the financial condition of the city and all. Also, I wanted to invite the public, and I notice that you have some students here tonight that are also here in the interest of government and what have you. March 20th, excuse me, at the VFW Hall here in Atwater, the Atwater Merced Tea Party is going to present a candidate forum for the District 3 candidates. It'll be an open debate and forum, and it'll begin at 6:30 in the evening. That's a Thursday evening, March 20th. And the way the format is going to be is that we will have all 4 of the candidates who are all committed to coming there. They will get questions asked of them from the audience, and they will, basically go back and forth with, the answers and what have you. It's an open forum. It's not going to be along the lines of the League of Women Voters type of a forum. It's not going to be written questions. People from the audience can ask those questions directly. I encourage the press to be there and cover this. This is an extremely important event, as all elections are. And it'll be a 2-hour event, 6:30 to 8:30 that evening. And anyone from the public is welcome to come to this event. Please don't think that you have to be a Tea Party participant or something along those lines. This is for all public members, and I hope that everyone will attend. Again, that'll be at the VFW Hall, 20th of March, Thursday evening, 6:30 to 8:30, and we hope to see everybody there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Don't go too far, Mr. Price. Stay about right there, please. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak on public? You can step back, Mr. Cunningham. Just stay right there, please. Okay, anybody else in the public who wishes to come forward and speak? Seeing none, we will close the public comments. Okay, consent calendar. Notice to the public, background information provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar Mr. Joe Rivero.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull all 4, 5, and 6.
Can I, Mr. Rivero, please let me finish, and then you will be able to pull.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I had my light on just to let you know.
Right,
That's
I
what was
saw
gonna
it.
do. Okay,
I
you
did,
recognize me,
honest.
so I'm letting you wait. I'm waiting
Let
for
me
you.
finish, the notice to the public, and then we will continue. Okay. Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar. These items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item that will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Now, those, and let me, okay, now I need a little bit of direction from the city attorney. Mr. Price wishes to comment on item number 4.
Right.
Okay, so we wait till that is pulled and then he can comment, or should he comment on item number 4 now?
The first course of action will be to ask council members if they have any items they'd like to remove.
That's correct.
If that item is removed, then
Yes.
Mr. Price can, or anybody else can speak at that time.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get through.
Right,
Okay,
right.
I was a little confused on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so then those items that are not removed and remain on the consent calendar, also the public may speak to those items. So with that, I'll recognize Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilman Joe Rivero, my apologies.
I'd like to pull items 4, 5, and 6.
Okay, just not so quick. Items 4,
5 and 6.
4, 5, and 6, okay? And are there any other council persons who wish to pull items? Mr. Jeff Rivero, do you have an item that you wish to pull? From the consent calendar?
Yeah, no.
No, okay, just wanted to be sure. Okay, now, right, okay. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to come up and speak on any item that remains on the consent calendar that will be voted on with one vote? We pulled 4, 5, and 6. Jeff Rivero, Councilman Jeff Rivero.
I was going to, has he already made the motion? Because I was going to make a motion to pull item number 7 and place it on next regular.
Okay, so
scheduled
Mr.
meeting. Number
7?
7?
Okay, 7, Mr. Jeff Rivero wishes to pull.
Then I'll amend my motion to include 7.
Okay, so you will include 7 in your motion, Mr. Joe Rivero?
Yes.
Okay?
And that's to place it on our next scheduled meeting.
So then, Mr. Jeff Rivero, I'm sorry, what did you say, sir?
Pulling item number 7 to place it on our next regular scheduled meeting, which would be the 24th of March.
Well, wait a minute, then we got 2 different motions here. Okay, okay, let me ask you this. Why, let us pull 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Then let's discuss, let's pass the rest of them, or we can't do that?
No, he wants to pull these for
Right.
afterwards, and number 7 is being removed from the agenda until next time. So you don't need a motion to remove them,
Okay.
but you do need a motion.
Motion to move this
From
to
the
the agenda for March 27th, is that correct?
24.
24th, okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Jeff Rivero. I will get this straight. So Mr. Jeff Rivero moves, this is his motion, to move to remove the claims against the city, item number 7, from the March 24th consent calendar, and he wants this on the agenda, the March 10th consent calendar, and he wants this moved to March 24th.
Yes.
Is that okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Jeff Rivero, okay?
Joe Rivero.
Joe, I'm sorry. Okay. So, I have a motion on the floor. And I have a second by Mr. Joe Rivero. Mr. Mooneyham.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for the city manager. Is there any sense of urgency on the claim number 2013-12?
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? We'll call for the question.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now, the remainder of the consent calendar is item number 1. Councilman Bergman?
I just moved to approve the remaining contents of the
Okay,
consent.
thank you,
calendar.
Mr. Bergman. So you're
Second.
going to... Okay, so Mr. Bergman is going to moves to approve the remainder of the consent calendar, and Mr. Jeff Rivero seconds it. Is that correct?
Mr. Joe Rivera, that's.
No, Jeff Rivero seconded.
No, Mayor.
I'm wrong again?
I said it, but he beat me.
Okay, anyway. Okay, my apologies. Mr. Joe Rivero. Okay. Call for the question.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now,
Number 4.
number 4. Can I call on Mr. Price to speak on item number 4?
Well, Madam Mayor, maybe the best thing to do first would be to introduce it and ask the member who asked it to be polled to ask any specific questions they may
Okay.
have, and then offer public comment.
That's fine, thank you. So, Mr. Price. Item number 4, ordinance number CS 949, amending chapter 3.45 of the Atwater Municipal Code relating to the Atwater Public Safety Transactions and Use Tax pertaining to the Citizens Oversight Committee. Mr. Joe Rivero, what are your concerns on item number 4, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One, I saw a member of the audience that was wishing to discuss this, and another, on this, my concern isn't the number of members from 3 to 4 and 2 to 3. My question is the term official that's being presented here by our city attorney, is this to make it so a member can serve on, by doing this, a member can serve on like this commission and another commission? That allows it, that opens the door for it?
This allows, only within the context of the Citizens Oversight Committee for Measure H, for the members of that advisory committee to also be members of other committees within the city of Atwater, including Planning Commission, Recreation Commission, other commissions. And again, the appointment is within the discretion as set forth in the ordinance.
Okay, and why I'm asking, this is not opening the door to say somebody is sitting on the Traffic Commission now can sit on the Public Works Commission.
Correct. You're
okay.
right. It's limited in its scope. That's a good question, but you're right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay.
That's good.
Those were your questions, sir?
That was my question.
Now, are we ready?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As this
Pardon me,
is...
Mr. Price,
Yes,
we do
ma'am.
the same thing as we do in the notice, that just state your name and address for the record.
You betcha. Jim Price, 3467 Village Woods, here in Atwater. And I apologize, number one, to Councilmember Mooneyham for my persistence in this one particular arena. For the definition of official, I know this has been something that's been flogged to death here, and I apologize for that, but this word was inserted into this ordinance, and it was inserted for a purpose. And as of yet, there hasn't been a clear-cut definition of why that word has been inserted. I'm concerned again, as to the definition of what makes an official. I have heard everything that it is not, but I haven't heard what is. So or maybe I should say that differently, heard what is and what is not. But in any case, with the word official, I can only, come from my own experiences, and I'm sure from your experiences as well as elected officials. When I joined the Air Force, I joined for 21 years, and I rose my hand and I swore an oath, and I became an official member of the United States Air Force. Plain and simple. You rose your hand and you became an official member of the City Council for the City of Atwater. When it comes to anybody else, you become that official for, in this case, commissions and the like. And what disturbs me about this is how we're allowing for human resource training. We're taking 700 forms for for financial disclosures and the like. There's also the California State Code for taking oaths for officials and for employees, of which the members are signing those and taking an oath. The City Council is also vetting and selecting members, and as a result of that, you, in fact, in my interpretation, become an official member of whatever commission or whatever for the City of Atwater. Therefore, in the official definition for the Oversight Committee, it is my interpretation, and I'm not an attorney, so I'm not trying to espouse that as being that, but it seems to me that this should really be a no-brainer. You're an official. If you've taken an oath of office, the same as what I took, when I did my military career, I became an official member. So I don't really see that there's any difference within that interpretation. So again, I apologize to Mr. Moonham because I know it was a source of irritation with you of sorts from the last meeting. And I don't wish to berate this any longer. I just want a clear-cut definition. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is there any other persons in the audience who wish to come forward and speak on item number 4? With that, we'll bring it back to the council and ask the council persons if there's any person that wishes to speak on item number 4. Councilman Joe Rivero.
Yes, I'd like to begin with making a motion to approve the changes where they're slashed out 3 to 4 members and all the instances where 2 to 3 members is made. I'd like to make that a motion right now, not the additional, because I want to talk on that one separate. So I'm all for the number of members, but I'm not right now approving or making the motion that's as to in here in the term official.
So my understanding, Mr. Joe Rivero, is that you favor the.
I favor.
Let me finish, and then you're going to tell me yes or no, okay? And city attorney, would you listen to make sure that I have this right? You are agreeing, City Councilman Joe Rivero, to go from 5 members to 7 members. Is that correct?
Right, and the places where it says 3 to 4 members, and I think there's another one slashed out 2 to 3 for terms of or terms of 3 years.
City attorney, can you give us a definition on the length that these people are going to serve, or are they? Do they each of these 7 people have different terms that come up, or are they all their terms end at the same time?
Well, the intent was, if you look at the second page, of the members of the committee first appointed, 4 shall be appointed for terms of 2 years, and 3 for terms of 3 years. Okay. And the intention is so that they don't all come up at once.
Okay.
So
Councilmember
Rivero's motion is to approve the balance of the ordinance changes without the definition of official.
Right. At this time. Right.
And I will say that while unusual, I suppose I should wait to see if the motion gets a second and then offer an opinion.
Okay. So he moves to approve, and then is there a second to that? Councilman Jeff Rivero.
I'd like to go ahead and hear the opinion now.
Well, the concern would be that this would be, you've introduced...
Could I ask you a question, just a moment, before I go on? Now, if we don't have a second to Mr. Joe Rivero's motion, then doesn't it die on the table? Don't I
Well-
have to second it before we can go ahead and discuss it?
I would exempt questions of legal counsel from that because the member is seeking clarification
Okay.
of the motion and not seeking to comment on the motion per se.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Thank you.
All
Yes.
right. So the question again, sorry.
My apologies.
What was your question again? I'm sorry.
I was asking for you were going to give an opinion, so I was going to ask for your opinion.
Yeah, this would be, if this motion would affect a substantial change in the ordinance as it was introduced to you last time. And so if this motion passes, we would go back and bring the ordinance back for first reading and introduction at the next meeting, minus the definition of official. The rule is that you can make changes to an ordinance, and you'll see this on an upcoming item, I think it's item 5 or 6, where staff is recommending some minor language changes. You can make minor language changes. This is a fairly substantial revision, and so if this motion passes, staff would be recommending that we come back and bring the ordinance back for first reading and introduction, minus this section. And that's just my opinion, but let's see if it gets a second, and then we'll go from there.
Yep.
This is parliamentary night. This is really, I mean, for the students, this is really an interesting night. It's interesting how many questions we've had on that so far.
Let me ask you a question. Wasn't it the motion of city manager? Would you speak on this matter? Was it not your recommendation that you wish to have it go from a 5-member committee to a 7-member committee?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was right. Okay, so this city manager, this here is supporting what you wish to have done. Is that not correct?
That's
Or am I
correct.
wrong?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So,
Is there a second to the motion?
yes, there is a second.
Where
right
is
here.
it? You're seconding the motion.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay. I seconded the motion. Jeff Rivero.
I was going to ask the city manager, the motion that's on the floor, how much does that differ, or does it differ at all from what you want?
Well, I got to be honest with you, I'm a little confused on what motion's on the floor. So, I mean, there's a motion going to 7, from 5 to 7, and then there's a dispute over the word official, so.
Okay. Mr. Joe Rivero, would you please repeat your motion?
Okay, my motion is all the changes made by the city attorney as far as 3 to 4 members and 5 to 7 and 2 to 3, all of those that have been stricken by the city attorney, I made the motion to make those changes at this time. I have not placed the term official onto my motion. So
that-
everything he's asked for except the term official.
That's fine.
Yeah. That's where I agree.
Yeah, under the circumstances, again, the effect of the passage of this motion would be to effectively send this back to staff to redraft the ordinance. It would be more appropriate if the member made a motion to deny or reject the ordinance changes, and let's see where that goes. And then staff, and then you can give if it passes, you can give staff direction to come back with the changes that you want. But acting on a portion of the ordinance, but not all of it, I don't think is appropriate. So if I see I understand where you want to go with this. My suggestion to help you get there is that you first make a motion to deny second reading and adoption of this ordinance. Then, if you want to make the changes from 5 to 7 members and 2 to 3 years and all of that, everything but the definition of official, you can do that in a subsequent motion. Would that be okay?
That would be fine. I just wanted to make it clear I'm all for all the changes.
Right.
And I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Okay, I'll withdraw my
I'll
motion at this time.
withdraw my second.
But my point is that a big part of the term official, and I've heard it from a member right here from over our other that's on actually the commission. A big part of the problem here is just 2 people or a person sitting on more than one commission. Now, we had in the past, in the city, there was somebody that was on one commission and he got appointed to another, but he wanted to serve on both, and we said, no, you cannot do that. okay? Out of all the citizens in the entire city of Atwater, there's a lot of individuals that are qualified. And now we have a few people that are going to be sitting on, if we pass something that says, okay, it's all right, we're kind of changing the direction of the city, right, where we're saying, okay, you can serve on this commission, now you can serve on another. And it just speaks of, I mean, it's a cronyism. Okay, so it's like, oh, you know what? You can serve on this commission, another commission, and another commission. Now, there's some really good commissioners that have worked hard for this for the city of Atwater. But of all the people in Atwater, that there's only one person that can sit on 2 commissions or 3 commissions or 4 commissions, that doesn't seem right. And so that's why I don't want to see Atwater starting to go down that path where we have one person serving on 5 commissions in the future.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to pull that item.
Okay, let me speak on that, please, because we have commissions. We have the Planning Commission, we have the Parks and Recreation Commission, we have the Traffic Commission. What other commission do we have? Is that it? Okay, those commissions have a process to be selected. They have to apply. We have a period, this young lady right here, our clerk is in charge of setting up a period of time in which they can apply to serve on those commissions. And then we have and I think that is what, 2 months, is it? It ends in December, right? Then we have our first meeting in January where we select the commissioners for the planning, for the recreation, and for the traffic. Now, and we have a definite process to follow. With this particular, so that's how we do it. So these people that are serving on these commissions right now have gone through the process of being selected. It takes about 3 to 4 to 5 months to be selected. This particular commission or group is a special group that is part of the Measure H committee. They are they're part of the tax that you have to have a group of people from the citizens to monitor the sales tax since it was passed. So they're, as far as I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, City Attorney, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the lady in charge, but these are 2 different types of commissions. And so it makes a difference in how you're selected. This young man, Eric Lee, happens to serve on the Parks and Recreation Commission. He happened to be walking down the hall and about a year and a half ago, and I needed to have some extra people do the Parks and Recreation Commission. We had some vacancies, and we were coming down. This young lady over to the left of me says, Miss Fall, we don't have anybody on the Parks and Recreation Commission applying, and we're running out of time. And I said, okay, well, let me go out and recruit some people to go through the application process. This young man just happened to be walking down the hallway. I stepped out of my office, grabbed his shoulder, and asked him, Mr. Lee, would you mind going down to the city clerk's office and signing up to be one of the applicants for the Parks and Recreation Commission? So I just wanted, and then we went through the process. So I just wanted to make that very clear. So that there are 2 varieties. Mr. Bergman, my apologies for taking so long, but I really wanted to get that across, that these commissions are not this, they're totally different in how they are made up. And then followed, City Attorney, would you like to go before Mr. Bergman, or would you like to have Mr. Bergman go first?
Well, all I wanted to say was that, following up on your comment, is that there are commissions in the city, and this is a committee. It is
Right, thank you.
There are 2 different things.
Right.
The ordinance is very clear, crystal clear, that the advisory committee does not have decision-making authority. It serves only in an advisory role. That differentiates it from the commissions, and you indicated there is a selection process. There's a swearing of an oath. To my knowledge, the committee members don't swear an oath, and it differentiates that. And this is a policy decision by the council. You can decide, it's within your purview to decide, that members who serve on existing commissions of the city may also serve on the oversight committee for Measure H. It's a policy decision. There's not a lot of law wrapped up in it. And so there is a distinction there between commissions and committees, and I'm comfortable with the way that it is structured. You asked me to come up with a way to structure this. We did it. It has had first reading and introduction, and we're recommending the entire ordinance for approval. And that's my comment.
Councilman Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor. First, got a couple of things I want to bring out here. Number one, city has an attorney that I have full confidence in. He's given his opinion on this more than once. And in my opinion, he has covered the area very well. So it kind of bothers me when people come up that don't have a law degree, question his comments that he's made, and he has covered it very well. Number two, this item is it's being obvious. Honestly, it's being pointed at two individuals. One of these individuals was just pointed to a commission, and although Councilman Jeff Rivera was absent for the election, she was unanimously elected. So why now are we bringing this issue up when it should have been brought up when she was running for this office? That's the second point. And the number one, the last thing is, at this point, I just want to approve that we approve staff's recommendation as written and move on with this.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Bergman. Mr. Eric Lee.
Thank you. Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard. I just want to ask a question. Are councilmen allowed to be on other commissions as well? So if they're on the council, are they on other commissions, or can they be on other commissions?
City Attorney.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your question, sir. My apologies.
Are council members allowed to be on other commissions as well as being on the council in the city?
I don't believe so. Be specific, though, if you could.
Okay.
They can serve on, I think
I've been
they
trying to
serve on
find
the
out.
safety
I've been trying to
commission.
find out about a solar commission.
Okay.
Those are considered, they are representatives on those committees, like the finance committee and things like that. Yes.
Okay, but there's no
but
distinction of being an officer on one, and like they're coming up with now.
Excuse me, sir.
Not to my knowledge,
Take
but again.
Take the time off for a minute. Let me explain a little bit to you, and maybe I'm helping to clear this, maybe I'm not. I am the city, I appoint the people, the council people to committees, and I appoint Mr. Jeff Rivero to the Solar Committee. I appointed Mr. Moody Ham to Audit and Finance, I think. Is that correct? And wrong person.
Councilman Jeff.
Councilman Jeff Rivero and yourself. Who did I appoint? What did I appoint you to then, Councilman Joe Rivero?
I was on Public Works.
Public Works, and then then that one was disallowed because of the finances.
Public
Okay,
safety,
Public Works.
right.
Okay.
That was-
So, and then I appointed myself as on the Merced County Government MCAG. Okay, that's mine. Councilman Mooneyham, he's on the League of Cities. Okay, and I make those suggestions. This group makes the final approval.
Okay, do those committees involve agendas and minutes?
No. Not what? Some do, some don't. Pardon me, the clerk says some do, some don't. Depending upon their, you want to explain a little bit more about them?
Well,
City Attorney?
Let me just say this. I understand the point Mr. Lee
Yeah.
is attempting to make, but let me just suggest that we have a rather full agenda. We have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance for second reading and adoption as presented. Let's dispose of the motion first. If it doesn't pass, we can continue the discussion. Would that be?
Joan clarified, Mayor clarified what I was asking, so I just wanted a point of reference.
Thanks.
Okay, excuse me, City Attorney, I think we have two different things. We better clear up what the motion is. Because
Councilmember Joe Rivera withdrew his motion and you withdrew your second.
Okay,
After
right.
that, Councilmember Bergman made a motion to approve the staff recommendation, which is for second reading and adoption.
As presented.
That motion was seconded by Councilmember Mooneyham.
Good,
So
okay,
you have a
that's-
motion and a second, and unless there's more discussion, you could call for the question.
I have one question, but Joe Rivera, we're ready to call for the
Yeah,
question.
thank you, Madam Mayor. I just heard, about confidence in the city attorney, and I have full confidence in our city attorney. The whole issue here that I have isn't with the legality, it's the reason.
Okay, sir.
Is the reason behind it. And, if my best friend was asking to be on 2 commissions, I'd tell him no. Because in the law, or when there's ethics training, it says even the appearance of impropriety, or in this case, I look at it like, so maybe a little bit more that we're favoritism, cronyism. And I have no problems with the individuals. I mean, there was one member that served in many things good for the community. And I'll probably get heck for this, but the whole thing is that I just don't believe that a city of this size has to go ahead and say, okay, you're going to be on more than one. I mean, there's a lot of people asking. There's people on the waiting list right now to be on several of the commissions. That was my whole point of this.
Thank you. Okay, call for the question.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
We've had more meetings to discuss the word official than anything else. I'd just like to see some boots on the street. That's why people voted yes on this measure, so yes.
Mooneyham,
Question for the city manager first. How many applicants did we have approach you about serving on the Measure H Oversight Committee?
We had 12 altogether. I took 10. We had 5 alternates and 5 committee members.
Okay.
2 of them did not qualify.
So not overwhelming, would you say?
No.
Okay, yes.
Joe Rivero,
No.
Ball,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. Okay, we have gotten through item number 5. We're still doing the consent calendar. We're still trying to approve, we approved number 4, so now we're number 5, and then we'll go to number 6. Is that correct? Okay, Councilman Joe Rivero, number 5.
Yes, there was a question I discussed with the city attorney about clarifying some of the wording, and you had mentioned that you would get.
Yeah, thank you,
get back.
Councilmember Rivero, and I appreciated your input on this. Between first and second reading, as the council is aware, you may consider minor language changes, and I would certainly characterize this as a minor change to clarify the intent of the ordinance. But throughout the ordinance, maximum building heights can be accepted or waived by the city council upon a recommendation of the fire chief. And the question that was asked was, well, what if the fire chief's recommendation is pro, con, or otherwise? Is the council bound by the advice or the recommendation of the fire chief? And that was not the intent of staff in drafting this ordinance. So where the words upon a recommendation of the fire chief appear in the ordinance, staff's recommended language would substitute after due consideration of the professional opinion of the fire chief. So therefore, you have to give consideration to the fire chief and his views, but the council, as is the case in all ordinances, is the final decision maker. And so staff's recommendation is to change out the words, the 3 words, upon a recommendation, and insert after due consideration of the professional opinion of the fire chief. And with that change, I think it's clearer, and I appreciate the input.
Okay, I thank you very much for that, because it was, to me, very unclear, and I was looking through one of the planning commission meetings where the current fire chief was questioning about the height of some of the buildings out there in our shopping center. And so I wanted to make it clear that it was the council's decision, because things can change from one time to another. At that time, the fire chief was happy with the Target and the Walmart and all that. So I wanted to make sure that it's council's final decision. So,
Would you like to make a motion then?
Yes,
We've answered your questions, so on approval of this item?
I'll make the motion to approve this item with the changes made by our city attorney.
I'll second.
We have seconded by Mr. Bergman. Councilman Bergman. Okay. Any other questions? Call for the question.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Fall,
Yes.
motion carries.
We have item number 6, ordinance number CS 951, amending Chapter 232 of the Municipal Code relating to Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The one thing, where it's talking about the city manager, counseling meetings, or one other official, I wanted to I wanted to clarify, this is if there's nothing on the agenda at all. I mean, there's nothing up because, well, we're sloated this week, let's cancel it, and that could put off some development or something, or somebody else who has an issue in the city. So I wanted to make sure that clarification as well. That if there is one issue, well, we only have one issue, I want to see us streamline things in the city, so.
City manager?
If there's nothing on the agenda, we will cancel the meetings.
Okay, but if there
And
is.
there will be times that we have training in those meetings instead of canceling them also.
Okay, so, but if, we wouldn't counsel if there's one person that has something that they have an issue with?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And so I'm fine with that.
Okay. Then are you ready to any other questions, Councilman Joe Rivero?
There was one that was brought up here in the past about the minutes that were taken, and I see the reasoning that was given to that is that they're a little more complete. And one of the reasons that they gave is that, well, it's on tape, it's not on video, and so if someone's to come back and review or research, it's easier than listening to the full hour or 2 hours to try to find the spot. I'm saying there is a potential need.
But there's two sides to each of these items, but I'd like to have the clerk, or I'd like to have the city attorney again tell us the reason why we need action. Which one? So we summary, which one? Action minutes. Would you please tell us?
Well, the reason, my whole function, my whole point here was at the last meeting, the need for consistency.
Right.
The need to have a consistency between the form of minutes used by the other commissions and by the city council. And there, in my view, there is no reason for the planning commission independently and by itself to have a different and more detailed form of meeting minutes. I put myself in a position of having to defend this community in court in the event of litigation over planning and zoning decisions, and standing in front of a judge and having to explain why there are very, very, very detailed meeting minutes for planning commission meetings, but not for city council meetings, where the council acts in an appellate capacity in many cases. That's difficult. And so from our standpoint, both for practical reasons, just the length of time and the amount of resources that goes into preparing these detailed minutes, and for that reason, in the interest of consistency, we were proposing that the form of minutes just be uniform. If this council decides that you want to have the form of detailed minutes used by the Planning Commission now for all commissions and the council, you can do that. It involves a policy decision. It involves the allocation of resources. That's within your purview. But all we're saying is that there needs to be consistency.
Councilman Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you again for that clarification on that. And with that, I'd like to approve staff's recommendation as presented.
Second.
For item number 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Or 6. 6, I'm sorry, 6.
6.
Okay, moved by Mr. Bergman, Councilman Bergman, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham. Is there any further discussion? Call for the question.
Joe Rivero.
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
No.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Fall,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, item number 8, public hearing. Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Home Buyers Assistant Program, Participation Guidelines, Housing Rehabilitation Program, Participation Guidelines, and CDBG Program, Income Reuse Plan. Community Development Director McBride.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight, before your consideration, we have one resolution for you to discuss, and it has 3 components. They're basically consolidated components for programs that we've operated before. As the Mayor said, CDBG, that stands for the Community Development Block Grant Program. It also involves HOME and the Cal Home program. Just to give you a sense of the magnitude of these, we have something in the neighborhood of 19 awards over the years, with 120 specific loans and a loan pool of a little bit over $6.1 million. With that in mind, from time to time, the state updates and changes the program guidelines. And we did a review of our program back in October and November, and it came to our attention that it was time for us to update the guidelines. With that in mind, what you have here tonight meets the content and requirements of the current state requirements. And so we wanted to provide this for your consideration tonight so we can move forward. One thing that I just wanted to point out, a couple small things actually. Currently, you're not eligible to apply for these programs. It's because you have a housing element that's not in compliance. Another issue that we've become aware of as well, which actually could be of a benefit to the city, is that when loans are repaid, which hasn't been happening very often in the last few years, but when it does happen, during the fiscal year it's $35,000 or less, that actually becomes income that could be recaptured by the general fund. If it's more than that, then it has to be retained and reused for other purposes. Another small change that we've asked to keep in here is how we would allocate the use of our program income reuse funds. We used to have the option to have micro enterprise lending, rehabilitation. It's just far easier from us, given what we have from a staffing level, to deal with it only for home buyer assistance. So we've changed that where 100% of the funds, if we are able to use it, would be only for that purpose.
For home buyers, did you say, sir?
Home buyer assistance, right. I think it's important to keep in mind that even though you have $6.1 million in loans and all these grants we've received, these are 30 to 45-year terms. There's no interest on these. They're not repaid for many, many years. It is very uncommon that we get repayment, although when the economy was very busy, when people were refinancing or selling, we were getting payoffs. But the last few years, we haven't seen very many. Although this year we have maybe two. I don't know the exact figure, but maybe it's $15,000 to $18,000. So there has been a little bit of activity this current year. So again, Mayor, this is a public hearing. It's one resolution with the three counterparts identified, the program income reuse, the guidelines for all the programs. So we'd want to entertain the public on this item and answer any questions the council may have.
Before we open up the public hearing, may I ask the council, do they have any questions at this time? If there are no questions, we will open up the public hearing. Now is the time that persons may come forward and speak for or against the item. This is item number 8 on the agenda, Community Development Block Grant. Please come forward, sign in, name and address, and you have 3 minutes, just as you have for any other public hearing. This is the time for you to come forward and speak either for or against this item. Seeing none, we will bring this item back to the dais. Is there any questions of Mr. McBride? Are we ready then to a motion to adopt? Or Councilman Joe Rivero?
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution number 2746-14, approving the revision of the CDBG Home and CalHome Home Buyer Assistance Program Participation Guidelines, Housing Rehabilitation Program Participation Guidelines, and CDBG Program Income Reuse Plan.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Bergman. Do we have any further questions? I'll call for the question.
Joe Rivero?
Yes.
Mooneyham?
Yes.
Jeff Rivero?
Yes.
Bergman?
Yes.
Fall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
City Attorney reports. Item number 9, verbal report regarding the government immunity for members of the Citizens Oversight Committee.
I'll be brief. I was asked at the last meeting to look into a citizen comment, whether Oversight Committee members somehow lose immunity that would otherwise be provided by virtue of a title change, or whether the city would lose immunity that it would have pertaining to the participation of those members in decisions because of their title. Now, in California, immunity is based on the functions that are performed as they are performed, and not on the title or on the designation that is given to those officials. Cities have tried in the past, in order to get immunity in different contexts, to redefine positions, and the courts have been very clear that immunity exists or doesn't exist based on the functions that are performed, not on the titles that are used or on the name of the committee or anything like that. This is an advisory committee, as we've been through in the past. It's very clear in the ordinance. The discretion is limited, and yet they are generally immune, and members enjoy immunity for their functions, and nothing in the ordinance that the council just adopted changes any of that. I think that's the critical question. Does adopting this ordinance change in any way the immunities enjoyed by either the members or by the city? And the answer to that, in my opinion, is no.
Okay. Councilpersons?
There's this, and by the way,
Yes,
Mayor,
City
there's no action to be taken on this item.
Right.
It was just a request to bring back information, and I've rendered advice.
You brought it back, and I'm
So-
asking the councilpersons if it now meets their questions that they had and the requests. If it does, then we will move on to the next item.
Somebody wants to speak.
Oh, Mr. Price, come forward, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologize for taking up the city's time tonight, but...
That's okay.
Jim
Please
Price,
give-
3467
Thank you.
Village Woods. In all fairness to the city attorney, this is not what my question was when it came to immunity prosecution. What it was it related to people that are on other commissions, not to the Citizens Oversight Committee. And it was that by the definition of the word official, which I'm sure my eyes are going in opposite directions because I still don't know whether or not a clear definition of that. What I'm saying is this: if a person who is on a commission is not regarded as an official, then that right and that immunity of prosecution would be waived. That was the thrust of my comment. And if it's within the council's purview to say that that's not applicable, or the city attorney's opinion, then fine. But my comment centered around that waiver of that immunity of prosecution as it related to other commissions, not to the Oversight Committee at all. That wasn't the thrust of the comment. So I just want to, be clear on that. That's where it all stemmed from. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Okay, we will then move on to item number 10, amending classification plan and salary schedule A through 13, effective July 1, 2013. City Manager Pietro.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the council, as you're all quite aware, our finance director's position has been vacant since March of 2013. We've been utilizing the MRG Municipal Resource Group, and they've been kind enough to allow us to have Bill Zanoni as our consultant, and he's been a great help in the past year. But although the city has budgeted for an finance director, it's staff's opinion that we don't fill that position at this time due to the financial restraints of the city. It's staff's recommendation that a finance operations manager position be created. You'll notice in the salary schedule that saves us about $2,000 a month from a finance director to a finance operations manager. So it's staff's recommendations to approve Resolution 2449-14, amending classification plan and salary schedule A13. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the city manager in regards to this item? Number 10. Councilman Bergman, followed by Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like to echo the city manager's appreciation for Mr. Zanoni. He stepped in and he took a very difficult job, and he's done wonders for us, and I just want him to know that myself, I'm very appreciative for the work he's done. And also, I want to go ahead and move to approve staff's recommendation as presented.
Councilman Joe Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The one thing you have it's stricken the finance operations manager where he's making $4,918.42 a month, and then the finance operations manager, which you're proposing right now, is $5,397. So it's the same title, but the increase is about almost 500 a month.
It's more competitive.
What?
The duties have changed.
The
Go ahead.
duties and the job description have changed. The finance manager before never oversaw the operations of the finance department. This finance manager will. So that's, some of the duties have changed, so we increase the salary up that much. We're still saving close to $2,100 a month, though.
You know, one concern I have is that now if we increase our duties, and then we still have finance director on there. If we ever hire a finance director, they're going to look at it, okay, we'll hire a finance director. He'll have less duties then, but the salary right there remains the same. So I'm like, okay, if you're going to increase the salary because someone's duties are increasing, this is the problem that I saw the city had in the past where there was fewer duties for people and they were getting a larger salary. So I think in the same step, we should, since there's a reduction in the duties of in the potential in the future for finance director, we should reduce that and let the council, whoever then at that time, deal with it. Okay, you know, if they want to hire somebody at that much more, that's fine, but to leave it on the books, when you're giving one person 500 more, but leave it in the books so they can continue that, is that appropriate? I'm asking the city attorney. I mean, is that viable?
Excuse me, city attorney, we do not have pardon me, Joe, but we don't have a second on this. So do you want to answer this first and then we get a second? But then I have Mr. Jeff Rivera and Mr. Mooneyham waiting to speak. So I need to get a clarification on this.
First of all, if I could just ask you to maybe bring that in just a little bit and rephrase your question for me.
Okay, well, just basically stating that as we increase the finance operations manager's salary, that we decrease the finance director's salary at the same time on the books.
Excuse me.
Can we, is that appropriate? Can I make that or amend the motion?
On the books, or are you talking about an on the
Well, I
schedule?
mean, on the salary scale, I said on the books.
Pardon me.
But if you have a person serving in that position, or don't you?
No, we don't.
As long as you don't have a person serving in that position, then you can.
Okay.
Excuse me, City Manager Peter wanted to make a comment, and I turned the light off and got lost in the second.
Thank you,
So-
Madam Mayor. Councilman Joe Rivera, I don't think at this point in time that we're even looking at a finance director, and the future of the city is to get financially healthy. I don't believe we'll be considering a finance director for at least 3 or 4 years. Most of the cities now are using finance operations manager to run their finance department to save some money. You can bring that back at a later date if the city decides to get financially healthy and we hire a finance director. But at this point in time, I don't foresee it in the near future, at least 3 to 4 years, that we'll be even hiring a finance director.
And I agree with you. I don't see us hiring a finance director, but I'd just like to say that they never do this. They always leave the numbers on there.
Pardon me, this conversation has to stop for a moment, please, till I get a second, or otherwise, we cannot go on. Councilman Mooneyham.
Second.
Second, thank you. Okay, Joe, one more time, and then we have a second, and then we go to Councilman Mooneyham, followed by Councilman Jeff Rivera.
I'd like to amend the motion just to decrease the finance director's salary by as much on the salary schedule.
Yeah. At this point, you do have a motion and a second. The member can ask the maker of the motion if they would agree to modify their motion.
And
to
the
that
maker of the
degree.
motion
And
is
let's
Mr.
dispose of that motion first.
Pardon me, sir.
Defer to the maker of the motion then.
That would be Mr. Councilman Bergman.
Motion stands. However, I'm more than willing to entertain this at a later date.
Thank you. Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Bergman. We have a second by Councilman Mooneyham. Now it's Councilman Mooneyham's time to speak.
Mayor, my light was
Followed
on.
by Councilman Jeff Rivera.
Mayor, my light was on just to second the motion.
Okay. Now, Councilman Jeff Rivero.
I wanted to take a moment to thank Mr. Zazzoni for all the hard work he did when he stepped in. I know the first meeting that we had, and he explained some of the things that were going on in our finance department and some of the things that he said he was going to change. He followed through with everything that he said he was able to do. Also, anytime that the Audit and Finance Committee asked for information, he had it at our next meeting, or if not sooner, in our boxes. So I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate all the hard work you did working with our city manager to get over $100,000 caught up on our business license. And I know there was a lot of other situations that you put in a lot of hard work. And I know you had to drive a reasonable distance to get here, and I appreciate the time and effort you put in to help get our book straight here in the city of Atwater. So thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Jeff Rivero. With that, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Do we have any further questions? Call for the question.
Joe Rivero? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what was your vote?
No.
No? Okay, thank you.
Mooneyham?
Yes.
Bergman?
Yes.
Jeff Rivero?
Yes.
Ball?
Yes,
Motion carries.
that was item number 10. We are now moving down to item number 11, accepting the audited financial statement for the fiscal year ending ending June 30, 2013. Mr. Zanoni, would you come forward and introduce the auditors? Please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The item that you have before you this evening is a recommendation to accept the audited financial statements for the fiscal year that ended June 30th. This audit process is something that started actually in the spring of last year and went through basically up till a couple of weeks ago. The auditors, Price Page and Company, did an outstanding job of working with city staff. We went through some of the numbers last week during the mid-year budget review. The document that you have, and the auditors will go through it quickly, but I just wanted to point out just a couple of points in the audited financial statements. There's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of pages. If you were to pick and choose what to focus on, or for anybody that wanted to review these, in the front on pages 4 to 13, there's a section called Management Discussion and Analysis.
Okay, let's just take our time. Gentlemen, let's take a look at page, what is it, sir?
It's pages 4 to 13.
4 to 13.
And what that attempts to do is to pull the key information from the back, the next 80-some pages, 100 pages of the report, and summarize it. So really the key points of the audit, I think, are covered in the Management Discussion and Analysis. Again, if you didn't want to look through 100 pages of numbers, another section that you might want to focus on are the notes to the financial statements, and those are pages 32 to 65, and that has a lot of narrative. It explains the city's long-term debt. It talks about the funds that have positive and negative balances, and it's a pretty good summary in layman's terms of the numbers. Just one more point, as we discussed during the mid-year budget review last week, if you were to look on page 20 of the audited financial statements for the general fund, you can see that the general fund, as of the end of last fiscal year, had a negative cash position of $3.1 million and a negative fund balance of $4.2 million. Those are the same numbers we talked about last week. The good news, I think, if you turn on to page 22, almost to the bottom of the column on for the general fund, you'll see a net change in fund balance of a negative $270,622. What that means is last fiscal year, the general fund spent $270,000 more than it took in. That actually is good news, because if you were to compare that to the audit of the year before, the general fund the prior year spent about $3.6 million more than it took in. So the good news is And the auditors will get into a little more detail, but I think the good news is, and as we discussed last week, the gap is closing. This year you have a balanced budget, and hopefully the audit that you get next year at this time will show no negative change in general fund balance, and hopefully a slight upturn. So with that, we have representatives from Price, Page and Company here this evening, Fausto Hinosa and Dave Dybas, who have both spent a lot of time working with the city staff and putting this audit together, and they'll give you a quick overview.
Before we, come on up, Fausto. Come on up, Dave. And welcome, come on, please. But before we move on, I want to ask the city clerk and the city manager and Mr. Zanoni if the public would like to get one of these documents to review. How do they go about, Gina, getting them?
The financial statements are on the city's website.
Okay. And, okay, what financial statements are on the city's website, okay? What about for us folks who are having troubles with websites and iPhones, how would I get one of these documents if I wanted to purchase it and review it?
If you wanted a hard copy of the document, paper copy of the document, I think you would go see Gina.
And cost? Whatever the cost to reproduce it.
10 cents a page.
10 cents a page?
And it's
Mr.
about
Fausto, how many pages do I have in here?
About 100 pages?
It's about 100
pages,
100
10
pages.
cents a page.
So roughly $10.
Roughly $10. Okay. Just wanted to make sure because, you know, I'll just be very honest with you. In the past, I've skimmed this, okay? Since we started to be in our financial problems, I have become a connoisseur in the audits. And so, really, if you have time, please purchase one of these for $10. Take the time to go through it and look at it, page by page. Ask, please, because we've worked so hard to get this back and going, get our city going in a positive direction, thanks to the city, thanks to the council, but we really all need to know what is happening to our financial. With that, Fausto, come on up, and Dave, and begin, please. And thank you very much for doing this. Thank you for being kind to Ms. Fall and to the city manager and all of us who've been asking you lots of questions, and you've been kind enough to answer them for us. And I'm sure that this council will have lots of questions.
Good evening, Mayor Fall, members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to come and present the financial statements. Thank you, Bill, for sharing some of the financial information. He stole a little bit of my thunder, but that's great. So we have completed the audit, and again, the audit has been completed on time. The due date for the audit was March 31. And so here we are, I think a month earlier than last year. I'd like to point your attention to page 1, which is on our letterhead, and that is the auditor's opinion. It's a little bit different format than it has been in prior years as a result of some auditing standard changes, but a couple of key things that I need to point out there. At the bottom of that page...
Pardon me, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
What page is that again,
Page
sir?
1, the
thank you.
independent auditor's report on our letterhead. The final paragraph on page 1 says, it's titled Opinions, and so that is the opinion paragraph. It says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the City of Atwater, California as of June 30, 2013, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That is an unmodified opinion. People might refer to that as a clean opinion. And so I've had discussion about this in the past. An unmodified opinion, or used to be called an unqualified opinion, says that the financial statements are accurately representing the financial position and the results of operations of the city. So an unmodified opinion doesn't indicate whether there is financial health. That is for a reader of the financial statements to determine based on the numbers. Our job as auditors is to tell you these numbers represent fairly your assets, your liabilities, your equity, your revenues, and your expenses. And so the audit process is one in which we obtain the financial information from the city's books and records, and we compile that information into financial statements, and then we report to you whether those numbers accurately reflect, again, your financial position and the results of operations. And so if they do, as they do in this case, we issue an unmodified opinion, a clean opinion. However, if we go over to page 2, so the second page, at the top there is a paragraph that says emphasis of matter regarding going concern. And that is a critical paragraph in this auditor's report. And it says the accompanying financial statements have been prepared assuming the city will continue as a going concern. As discussed in note 15, and that's note 15 to the financial statements, the general water and sanitation funds have suffered recurring deficits from operations. Additionally, the general and sanitation funds have net equity deficiencies, and the water fund has a net working capital deficiency. These conditions raise substantial doubt about the city's ability to continue as a going concern. Management's plans regarding these matters are also described in note 15. The financial statements do not include any adjustments that might result from the outcome of this uncertainty. Our opinion is not modified with respect to this matter. So that is what is called a going concern opinion. Basically means that you are in a difficult financial position, as Bill mentioned, and I'll just briefly cover again. You have a cash deficit position in your general fund, and you have operating losses in a couple of your enterprise funds. Well, I'll take a minute just to kind of reiterate what Bill said, though, that you have made a significant improvement with respect to your budget, and I'll wait just a minute to cover that. So you haven't. Yes, ma'am.
Let's stop and ask these young men, do you have any questions of Fausto? Now, you know I have this little thing about calling people by their last name, but with Fausto,
it's a difficult last name.
He has, it's a difficult last name, and I've known Fausto. We've worked together for a number of years, and so he's Fausto to me, and I'm not being disrespectful. But gentlemen, what he said, do you have any comments, or are you ready for him to just move forward? Move forward? Okay. Continue, please.
Okay, I'm going to just quickly here jump to page 22. And that is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for governmental funds, and just point you to the general fund. And in that general fund for the June 30, 2013 year that was audited, you have revenues of just under 11 million and expenditures of just over 11 million. And so you had an excess, a deficiency, because you had expenses a little bit greater than revenues of just about $150,000. However, if we go back and look at what that number was in prior years, in 2012, there was a deficit of $3.7 million. In 2011, there was a deficit of $3.8 million. And so again, to reiterate what Bill mentioned earlier, you have made significant changes with respect to your expenditures to bring that deficit down basically to a break even in 2013. That doesn't eliminate the cash overdraft that you have, and if you go to page 20, that's where you can see the audited number, $3.1 million. So there was a cash overdraft, right? You spent more money than you had in the bank account, if you will, for your general fund, and so that $3 million was accumulated over time, was a deficit. You now are budgeting and coming close to break even, so you're making progress. In order to attack that cash deficit, you would have to have a surplus in your budget, in your operational budget, to start to get back to zero. However, whatever was happening structurally with respect to your expenses exceeding your revenues by such a significant amount has been dealt with. And so that is the good news. I'm going to then just briefly then go over to page 25, which is a statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position for your proprietary funds. There are 3 funds there: water fund, a sewer fund, and a sanitation fund. Your water fund, I'm just going to get bottom line, your water fund still had an operating deficit of $656,000, which is still significant. Your sewer fund is in good shape and had a surplus of $1.7 million. Your sanitation fund, though, has a deficit of almost $800,000. And so structurally, with respect to your water fund and your sanitation fund, and I'm not sure what your current year budget is for the 2014 year, but the water and the sanitation fund both have had challenges even through 2013. The sewer fund was in good financial position. So in both the water and the sanitation fund, similar to the general fund, there are not just expenses exceeding your revenues for the year, but you have cash deficits, cash overdrafts, if you will. And so in the water fund, it was just over $1 million of a cash overdraft, and just over $2 million in the sanitation fund. And so these numbers are here in the financial statements. I don't want to go through in a significant amount of detail with respect to all of the numbers. I'm glad to answer any questions that you might have and go through any of the notes, financial statements, etc.
Okay, do we have any questions of Fausto? Mr. Jeff Rivero, any questions this time? Mr. Joe Rivero?
Perhaps just a question on when you're talking about the water fund and those that are showing the deficit. Now, have you factored in the increases that for the following year on how that will compare?
No, this is as of June 30th, so these numbers reflect just a couple of months with the new rate structure. Right. The budget that the council adopted this year for all 3 of the enterprise funds was balanced. So this year, and what we saw last week when we went through revenues and expenditures for the 3 enterprise funds, they were all, so far this year, generating enough revenue to cover expenditures. So what we need, again, with the enterprise funds, we need to generate more revenue than what we spend to eliminate the cash deficit. But this year will be the first year with the new rates and the higher revenues.
So basically, even with looking at that, the one that you still had more concern with was the general fund.
Correct.
Correct. And this is something I've been saying for a while now. That's one thing that this council has to look at, and the only way is to make cuts in certain contractual areas to save us money.
Any other comments? Okay, if none.
Mayor Fall, if I may,
Yes.
just, I want to express our appreciation also to Bill for assisting us in the audit, and to other Atwater City staff. The finance department is operating with minimal staff. The entire city is operating with minimal staff, and that's been obvious to us here over the last 3 years. And so from our perspective as auditors, they have been making significant efforts to accomplish all of the work that needs to be accomplished to carry out their duties. And on top of that, to have the auditors in here asking additional questions and asking for more records. And so we do appreciate the efforts that all city staff have made in assisting us to complete the audits.
Okay. Any other questions of the? Well, on behalf of the city and on behalf of the staff, Fausto, I want to thank your organization for coming and completing the 2012-13 audit is that correct, Fausto?
That's correct.
In a timely manner, within the same year. So we appreciate that, and you came before the deadline, which was the 31st. So we and the staff, and I appreciate you recognizing that our staff is kind of doing many different jobs, but still we're able to help you to answer your audit questions, because the key to a city, the key to everything is how we come out on the audit. Because people look, all of the bond agencies and everything look at the audit and how the auditors say that the city of Atwater has done. Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for the city manager and/or the city clerk. I know that we recently held a recruitment for a account clerk position for the finance department. Could you give the council a status update on how that recruitment went?
City Manager Petro.
We currently have 3 applications for the account clerk's position. We currently have
City Clerk.
That one says we fill the account clerk, one.
the
City
account clerk or one.
Account clerk, is that what you're talking about? Okay, yeah, that one's the front counter.
Yeah, we fill that. We currently have another position that we had 3 applications for.
Great.
That's in the finance department also.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Anything else of Fausto?
Thank you, Mayor.
With that, we will move on to the next, and thank you so much, job well done. This young man behind you, Fausto, he does not have to, Dave does not have to come forward and,
Dave is the one that does all of the work on the audit, so he really is the one that should be thanked by the
but
mayor
Dave,
and the
come on
council
up,
for the work
and
that's
we'll
been done.
thank you and very much for your daily appearance. And also, I'd like to thank your assistant, what was his name?
Oh, Daniel.
Yes, Daniel.
Daniel and Elaine.
Yes, Daniel and Elaine. So please send our regards and thanks to them also.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
City Manager, did you have anything to say?
Well, I just appreciate, Dave, all your time and efforts, and Fausto, you too. You were there for us this year, and we really appreciate all the help you've guys given us. Thank you.
I appreciate the staff has been more than accommodating to ask us any requests and would drop their work just to go out of their way to assist us within the audit process, and I do really appreciate that, as well as Mr. Zanoni, Mr. McBride's staff. They've all just they went out of their way to assist us to make the audit process as smooth as possible under the circumstances.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve or disapprove.
I'll make that motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham.
Make a motion to approve staff's recommendation as presented.
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded, motion by Mooneyham, seconded by Jeff Rivero. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
With that, we would like to take a short recess, and so Mr. Dobler can get ready for, and Mr. McBride can get ready for their presentation. Thank you. Somebody's. Call the meeting back to order at 8:01. We are on 12, verbal review of the fire department activities. Chief Pimentel.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, city manager, and residents of the city of Atwater. Your city fire department responded on 225 calls for the month of February, 5 structure fires, 6 other fires, 6 vehicle accidents, 184 medical aids, 4 hazmats, and 20 public service assists. Also for projects, we were able to complete 5 inspections, and again, we talk about inspections for the hydrants. We've been just doing more of a visual inspection on these hydrants, taking the caps off, just making sure that they're intact as far as that goes, but no flow of water during this time that we have with the drought. Public educations, we did 1 business inspections. We completed 57 business inspections. Training sessions for the guys were also 3. For our reserve program, we had 152 hours worked and 9 training hours. Also, I'd like to say that recently we had one of our engineers in the city of Atwater going through the testing process with CAL FIRE and was able to promote to fire captain. That was Mike Perez.
Oh.
So he was successful in doing so. He will be staying close. He'll be staying in the division, but we were proud to say that he was successful in the process and was promoted to fire captain.
Okay, so Mr. Mike Perez has been promoted through his diligent work with doing the testing and doing his service to the city of Atwater. So he's gone from engineer to fire captain. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, actually, we brought him back a couple months ago and back into the city from working out in the county. Was successful in doing so and had him going to work, doing a lot of good things here in the city again. And through the testing process, was very successful in the testing process, and is now going to be a fire captain for CAL FIRE out in the county now.
Okay. Chief Pimentel, is it now appropriate for us to give a certificate of recognition to Captain Mike Perez?
I believe he'd probably be okay with it. I know that it's something that he just promoted. I just wanted to recognize his.
I understand that,
so.
but he happens to be from the city of Atwater. He happens to be an Atwater High School graduate. Mr. Mooneyham, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious if Captain Perez was a recipient of some of the Red Circle monies previously.
Yes, sir. I believe so.
So now does that qualify for that going away?
We were talking about that, but to my understanding and looking at this, I believe so. I would have to get further verification for that, but yes.
Maybe next time, can you come back and give us a verbal on that?
Yeah, we'll be dealing with the contracts here this month, so we'll hopefully be able to have a confirmed answer for you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So it would be okay then for us to put it on our next agenda for his recognition.
If you would like to do so, Mayor, yes.
And Councilman Jeff Rivera.
I was going to ask, since you have the new year started, what was last year's breakdown on business license inspections or business inspections?
As far as?
Total number of inspections completed?
A total, I don't have those figures with me right now, but I know there is about 1,000 businesses done last year, but I can get those figures for you next month if you'd like.
All right, and then on the weed abatement, what is the difference of what your plan is, game plan this year for the weed abatement?
Yeah,
'Cause I know I talked about-
Captain Scott Phillips runs the weed abatement program. Being that we did get some rainfall, there's green vegetation around. He is currently getting ready to start his process. He'll probably go over for the next 3 to 4 months. And if we actually do get further rain and start working on those weed abatements. But we like to give the people in the city of Atwater opportunity to get their lawns cleaned up. And like I said, with this new rain coming, you'll see more growth. So we're going to give them the opportunity to be able to manage their property as well. So, but you will see it in the next 3 to 4 months.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions of Chief Pimentel? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Verbal report from the Police Department activities, projects for the month of February 20th, 14. Police Lieutenant Joseph.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. For February 2014, our officers continued involving themselves in vandalism investigations and narcotics activity. And when it comes to the vandalism investigations, that group Chief Petro let me put together has done a fabulous job. They're continuing doing so, and hopefully I'll have good news next month on something they're working on this month for the project. But they have lowered the vandalism rate quite a bit in our statistics right now. We had officers, again, Chief Petro allowed us to put our traffic unit temporarily during the weekends. In fact, this weekend they worked it. They had 20 sites, 4 stored vehicles, and 1 DUI arrest just over the weekend. Notable cases for the month, officers were flagged down for a possible robbery at the 7-Eleven store. As a result, one of the officers located the possible suspect who fled on foot on the freeway. He was eventually caught and admitted to stealing, he stole Cheetos, but he eventually was taken into custody and booked for obstructing an officer. Officers also responded to Ralston Park involving a possible stabbing incident. Family members were gathered for a party over there. One of the members got upset at an incident and stabbed the other party. The victim was flown to the hospital. Detectives worked diligently on the case and eventually took the suspect into custody. We had an armed robbery reported over at Bobby's Market over at 1120 First Street. And then an identified male walked in, said he had a firearm and sold $200. Detectives are currently working that case as well and have a possible suspect. We also had an incident where we had a traffic collision over on it was East Juniper in the Schaefer area. Suspect crashed, or a person crashed into a car. The passenger ran from the scene. Witnesses told the officers that he'd ran in a certain area and possibly left a firearm somewhere in the area. Officers looked through the area and located a firearm and eventually placed the suspect into custody. It was a stolen firearm as well. We had calls for service for the month, 1,727. Burglaries were 23. Thefts were 36. Assaults were 4. DUIs were 4. Obstructing officers were 4. Citations 138, and we had 116 arrests. And that's it.
Okay, do we have any, yes, Councilman Joe Rivero.
Oh, thank you for all the work that your officers are doing. I had a question. Is the license plate reader currently functioning at this time, or does it need some?
It needs some work on it.
Some work on it?
We're working on that right now. With a little bit of technology right now, we're working with, Chief Petro is working with some firms and stuff.
What does it need to bring it up functional again?
You know, I'll be quite honest with you. They haven't worked properly since we had those. Yeah, we had them in the car for a while. The computer systems went down because they weren't compatible with our current TrackNet system, which is our report writing system. We're in the process of revamping the entire system now so they'll work. We did have some mounted on a pole. Unfortunately, the only person that had any access to these was Chief Hawthorne. When he left, nobody had any access. We're trying to get access back again. So it's really been a mess. They're quite an essential tool. The ones in the car work fine. The ones on the pole hardly ever work. So we're still working on it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of Lieutenant Joseph? Lieutenant Joseph, I want to commend you for your update of the incident. Thank you very much. As the incident happens, we get it onto our iPhones and whatever those, anyway, we get it.
No problem.
And I thank you very much, because it really helps when people ask me things to be knowledgeable.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief of Police Petro?
How many arrests have we made so far in the graffiti task force?
We have probably over 70 type of arrests, or by 70.
For the graffiti task force?
Mhm.
And it's been, how long has it been going? A couple months?
We started the program in July of 2013. You approved it, and actually, but the gentlemen work full-time shifts, and then they come in on their off time to work a couple hours here and there. But they've done the vandalism rate has dropped. I mean, you see graffiti here and there, but it's dropped considerably because the main players are getting hit, and then we know who they are now. So it's been beneficial.
Thanks.
Thank you. Item 14, approving professional services agreements with EMC Planning Group Incorporated for the Ferrari Ranch Environmental Impact Report and City Housing Element Update, approving a budget amendment to the fiscal year 2013-2014. Adopt budget to establish a budget expenditure and revenue can somebody close the door, please? So we have Development Director McBride. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Very pleased to bring this item to you tonight. This may seem like it's the beginning. This is really kind of the mid of the project. As you know, we've been working for many years with the Ferrari Ranch team. Mr. Dave Dolter's here tonight. We also are very fortunate to have with us Ron Sissom with EMC. He's also here tonight. Wanted to have them here in case you had any questions about what it is we intend to embark on and what the scope of the work is. Basically, you have two things tonight. You have the contract that we are asking for you to consider and approve and allow the city manager to execute on the city's behalf. And then in addition to that, you have a resolution that's necessary to add the expenditure and also the offsetting revenue into your current year budget. So that's the purpose of the resolution. As you know, we have a reimbursement agreement that's been executed between the city and the Ferrari, John Ferrari, and so they are covering the expense. Having said that, you don't have this project in your budget, and so the resolution is important to add that so that it's in there. We provided the full proposal, the scope, the details for you to review, as well as the budget. It's clear that this is not going to be done between now and the end of the fiscal year. This is a project that's going to wrap into the next year. It pretty much coincides with the timing for the construction of the expressway, and that's just how it's going to be done. It's a project that will take time. A couple things that I think are important to kind of highlight on this. As we started to work through some of the issues, it became clear that the city's current housing element has to be addressed. And I mentioned earlier tonight on a different item that we haven't been able to apply for certain programs that the state offers because of that. EMC's looked into the issue, and we find that we actually have to take care of the one that is recently expiring. It's for the period of 2007 to 2014. And because of the time period for the adoption of this project, we're going to actually have to work on the next one. So we're going to finish the one that's already done and have to complete a new one. So that added some additional work and expense to the project. In your mid-year review, you had a little bit over $16,000 allocated for housing element update. The intent is to use that towards the project, but we will be coming back to you. We'll figure out the mechanism to do it. But that component, the housing element, is really not the responsibility of the Ferrari Ranch at all. It's really the city's responsibility. And so they would appreciate the consideration to be reimbursed at some point, and we'll have to work the details of that out for the council and bring it back. This is a very exciting project, as you know, for the city. It's going to encompass 342 acres of area, around this new interchange. It's a great concept in terms of the land uses, provides an opportunity for jobs and investment that we haven't had in the community for many, many years. And with that being said, there's a lot of work to be done, and this is an important step in getting that going. So we're here to answer any questions, and we hope that you'll consider this for approval tonight.
May I make a comment before we go on? And I'd like this young man to stand up, please, Mr. Dobler. Mr. Dobler and Mr. McBride, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but I think we started this about 8 years ago, sir, maybe 9, maybe 10 with MCAG. And anyway, and I just appreciate you staying with it, Mr. Dobler. I cannot thank you enough for really coming to all of the meetings, coming everywhere. Thank you again. And you are a key person, along with the Ferraris, in seeing that this project gets done, along with the completion, along with MCAG, along with the passing the surplus in the 99 fund build, so that we got the extra money, and Mr. McBride for going through all of this. It's really been a team effort, and all of the members of the community around the Ferraris. I want to thank the Fosters and all of the wonderful people, and the school districts. There's been so many people that have worked on this in a partnership, collegiate manner, and I just want to say, job well done. But we're not done, as Mr. McBride said. We are just beginning. Thank you. With that, gentlemen, questions? Any questions, gentlemen? Mr. Councilman Bergman.
Move to approve staff's recommendation as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Councilman Bergman moves to approve staff's recommendation, and seconded by Councilman Jeff Rivero. Are there any further questions, discussions? Call for the question.
Bergman?
Yes.
Jeff
Pardon me.
Rivero?
Mr. Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham.
I could address it when she calls my name. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff Rivero?
Yes.
Mooneyham?
Mr. McBride, you may have mentioned it already, but was there a cost estimate for the housing element? I know that at one point in time we had a fairly reasonable dollar amount, and that had since expired, and I believe you were unable to get a hold of that consultant, and you sought another bid, and it was substantially more than the first one. Is that correct?
Well, I can tell you that in the overall budget, the housing element, keep in mind it's for two, not just one, is about $82,575. That's out of a total project budget of basically $490,000.
Any other questions, sir?
Was that it? And we are proposing to eventually reimburse the Ferrari family for the entire balance of that? No?
We're going to need to come up with some type of a mechanism. One thing to keep in mind, that there's going to be...
Could you speak a little louder? I'm sorry,
Yeah, maybe it's not as loud tonight. There's going to be a development agreement between the city and the Ferrari Ranch project. And
So that'll come back before us?
It's going to take that into consideration.
Thank you. I'll vote yes, Madam Mayor.
Joe Rivero?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, verbal review of the Public Works Department activities, projects for the month of February 2014. Acting Public Works Director Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We're continuing in the street department doing repairs on street lights. We're repainting some of the signal light heads that are, the paint's flaking off, turning silver. We're repainting them black. Continuing on the filling potholes. I've heard a lot of comments. People are saying that they see us out there trying to get a lot of potholes done. We've gone through the last couple months about 10 ton of asphalt. So we're really getting out there. In the water department, we're just continuing to do upgrades and water breaks as we come around and doing the water turnoffs. In the sewer, we've just been jet rodding the trouble spots where we have a lot of buildup. We get backups, try to do some preventive maintenance, try to get the whole city redone again. We try to get it done every year. We replaced 2 sewer laterals last month, and we repaired both storm pumps over at Northwood, which is over at Jacobs Ranch. The other stuff you had was the Councilman Bergman, you were commenting, you wanted to know some information about the wells. We couldn't come up with an exact cost of what it costs to service those wells. It's just daily, we go out and check the wells. They usually last 5 to 8 years before we have to really pull them and get the bowls redone. That runs about $60,000. The water quality, we're putting out good water. All we do is chlorinate it. The other thing you had was you see in your packet, Councilman Mooneyham, about the water conservation. We put in there, there's really not much more we can do than go to odd even days, no water on Mondays. I kind of changed the days, the times a little bit to try to get it to where they're not watering in the hottest part of the day, to where they're watering it at night and then early in the mornings. I think that was, Councilman Rivero on well 20. It's been down for so long, we don't have any data to where I come up with energy usage. That's the well that went down that we're gonna be putting a new one in. So right now we have no data we can go off of.
Mr. Mooneyham, followed by Councilman Jeff Rivero.
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, that collapsed sewer line, I believe it is, on Schaefer as you're approaching Manzanita, where we actually put a sign that says dip instead of fixing it. It's collapsed to the extent now to where the right side of your car goes down so far that you almost bottom out. Is there plans to address that at some point in time here in the near future?
I need to get with Scott again. I'm coming up with some projects for some of the money we have for the gas tax we have. We're putting some projects together, see if we can do that. I have a bid on that one already.
Okay. The other thing, Mayor, if I may, this isn't giving direction at all, but if you guys have any manpower at all with the warm weather and the rains that we've recently got, it's quite easy to see all the large cracks that we have in our streets because they're green. And I know you guys have been throwing out cold patch wherever you can, but man, if you guys can attack those, that would be most appreciated, especially by my feelings. But also, I don't know if this is more directed toward the city attorney or public works, but I know that there's been a lot of concern about the Allied Waste contract, especially the roll-off dumpster portion of that contract.
Yes.
When that first came to my attention, that was a big surprise. I know a lot of people on this council didn't know that that was a proviso of that contract. So I hope that we could see that possibly discussed maybe in the meetings, or at least have an informational item on that in the coming meetings.
excuse me, Mr. Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham, we will put that on the next council meeting
Thank
or
you,
the
Mayor.
next one afterwards, and
Thank you.
have a representative from Allied Waste come and discuss the contract with us and the roll-off waste dumpster portion of it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay? And then we go to Jeff Rivera. I'm sorry to get.
I was going to ask on our water studies, how often are they done? And when do you see a water report coming out? Because I believe it was arsenic that was a little bit high on the count last time. It wasn't over what was seen as a,
Well, they were talking about lowering the MCL on the arsenic. We're okay right now. If they do lower it, we might have some problems with some of the wells.
Excuse me, Mr. Shaw, maybe you can explain about the tests and the different levels and who generates those levels so that the public knows about the tests that you have to follow for each well, and what, it's the Water Quality Board that sets those standards, is that correct, sir?
State Department of Health,
State Department of Health?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
they
can
come
you
up with the
kind of go along with
standards.
what Mr. Jeff Rivera was talking about and kind of talk to us? I think we all have received those letters in the mail about the testing quality, but I think we now need to really maybe read them a little closer than we have in the past. I have to tell you that I have not been doing close reading on those reports, but I'm going to start. Thank you. Go
Yeah,
ahead. I'm
every
sorry to
year we send
interrupt
out
both you
the
two.
Consumer Confidence Report, and it has all the levels of the arsenic and nitrates, all the major contaminants that people should be, checking in on. But right now, we're good. We're below everything.
Okay, thank you. We have Councilman Bergman, followed by Councilman Joe Rivero.
Okay, first of all, thanks, Brian, for the update. I appreciate that. The second, I was going to wait to the end of the meeting, but since you brought up the issues of the roads and the potholes and that, I'll ask the city manager. We've got a perennial problem at Fortuna in Alabama. I know we filled it up. We took it to Mr. Church 8-10 months ago when it was filled up, but it's getting dug out again, and if it goes much longer, it is going to be quite a hazard. So if we could address that and get it taken care of before it does grow too big.
To let you know, I had a crew out there last week, and we're going to end up taking the Bobcat out there. We're going to sweep up, because what it is, all the rocks are still there from all the cold patch, but all the oil's gone. So we're going to go in there, we're going to sweep all that out, and we have bitumen now we're going to be putting down to help it adhere to the old the old asphalt. So
okay,
that is one of my projects I've been looking at already.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, and then Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a question. Have you done any research on the water table from some of your different wells? Do you do a water table check every, annually, or?
Yeah, we're getting ready to go and do level sampling to see how far it's dropped, if it has dropped.
Yeah,
where we
because
can-
I'd like to see, that as soon as you get those done, and then we can do perhaps a comparison somewhere on down the line, because I've talked to several farmers, and some are not having any problems right now, but others, their wells are going dry, so I'd like to know, in
Yeah,
our area, how much we're taking out, and, looking at the future, what kind of potential problem we might have.
Yes, last year we had to drop well 13. We had to drop it down. I think we dropped it 40 feet.
40 more feet.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can come up with those records on the levels.
Right, appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions of our wonderful person who's taken over the Public Works and is doing a fantastic job in the short period of time that he's been at it? Any other questions? Okay, with that, we will move on. Oh, I have one question, one more. Well, that was activities. One more thing. What about, where are we with the meters? Are we 20, is it?
20,
I've got the
25.
box in front of my house, but I don't think I have a meter in there.
No.
And I'm the oldest house, one of the oldest in the city, so When do I get the meter in the box?
It's going to be when we get back into financial shape to do another.
Okay,
to
so
another-
we can't, so the state has allowed us then, due to our finances, to get back into, before we have to do those again, or?
No, we're supposed to be all done by 2025.
Okay, we're supposed to be done
Yeah, the whole city needs to be on meters by
done by
2025.
2025. But you have gone in and put the boxes and the cement around it so that then all we have to do then is put the meter in the box. Is that right, sir?
Yes, when we do upgrades, we have a water break and we dig it up, we go ahead and we upgrade it to a meter set. And it
Okay.
just has an idler inside it.
Okay.
So when we get the money to buy more meters,
Right.
all we have to do is pull that idler out and drop a meter in. and-
Drop the meter in and then
Yes.
we should be, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions on that? Mr. Mooneyham, you look a little disturbed.
I was just trying to recall at one point in time in the past, Councilmember Jeff Rivero and I had discussed it at the council level about transferring title and potentially helping offset the cost of this vast amount of meters and requiring that with transfer of title that a water meter be installed. And I don't know what the disposition of that ever was. I don't remember.
Yes, that's a new
That's how-
ordinance.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Okay.
You gentlemen are to be commended. That's how we've been able, is that correct, Mr. Shaw? That now as we sell a home, when we transfer the title, then we sink the meter in and we're ready, and whoever, the seller and the
It's
buyer.
theirs, yes, or if they do over $1,000 worth of repairs on their water line.
Okay. Are we ready to go over there, Councilman Bergman and Mooneyham?
We are, Mayor. Thank you.
Almost home here. Thank you. Okay, so thank you. Any other questions, these young men? Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Now we have to go one more thing, right? And that's regarding water conservation. Have we kind of combined them all together, guys?
Yeah.
Yes, I think we have. Councilman Jeff Rivero?
I was just going to let Mr. Shaw know that we appreciate all the hard work that Public Works is doing out there. I know you guys were prepared for this last rain. Thank God we got some, and hopefully we'll get some more. And I appreciate your guys' hard work to make sure that there's no flooding in our town.
Thank you.
City Manager, on 16, do you have enough direction with the city count proposal and all that sort of thing on the water municipal code, or do we need to keep going a little bit more on that?
We're fine.
We're fine. Thank you. We'll be discussing this again, Mr. Shaw, at the March 24th meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, city council matters. We will start with Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham, and, yes, Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick items. I'd like to reiterate the announcement made by Jim Price earlier, the District 3 supervisorial candidate debate on March 20th from 6:30 to 8:30. I believe it's at VFW, correct? Yeah. So they put on a great forum for a debate, and I would invite anyone who wants to see a good discussion show up at that event. Also, for the city manager and eventually code enforcement, I had actually a couple of complaints from people in their cars driving by the auto dealership on the corner of Atwater Boulevard and Winton Way. They're blaring their music. You could hear it from over a mile away. Really, people in their cars had to roll up their windows. It was so loud. I don't know if you got any complaints or not, but if code enforcement could just go ahead and make a courtesy call, not any kind of penal activity, but or punitive measures, but just a reminder to be considerate of all the neighboring business owners around there. It's Lupita's Auto Sales is the.
Yeah, we do have a noise decibel thing right? It's in ordinance because we put it in last. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was louder than a Saturn V rocket, Mayor, so I'm sure it surpassed the 85 dBs. So,
Good thing I didn't hear it. Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now moving to Mr. Councilman Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got a few things. I received an email a little earlier today that kind of disturbed me a little bit. Most of you know that we had a wonderful citizen, Mr. Wayne Wallace, that had donated his time for the newsletter that we get in our utility bill. I feel Mr. Wallace did an excellent job in that letter. He significantly upgraded it, and it was actually a good read. He got a lot of good information in there. Unfortunately, he's had some issues with some individuals that he felt at this time he can no longer deal with, and he's resigned.
Well, we're working on that matter.
Well,
and
that's
so-
fine, Mayor, but I received the email, and it was very disturbing to me, and I feel the public needs to know.
I agree. I
So-
agree they need to know, but we have been working on it. You received the email, and Mr. Wallace and I have been working. And the city manager is going to give some direction. But I agree with you 100%. The man did a great job.
Well, then I'd like to be able to finish.
You may be able to finish, sir.
So,
Thank you.
my heart goes out to him. I want to thank him very much. Hopefully, it can be resolved, but I just want Mr. Wallace to know that I appreciate the work he did very much.
Thank you.
The one other thing I'd like to bring up is I have had discussions with a couple different councilmen, mainly from Merced. A few years back, they went paperless, they went electronic with their council packets, and talking to them and also talking to our city clerk, it seems that we could save a fairly considerable amount of money by looking at going electronic with these council packets, both in staff time and material. We spend a lot of money continually working on our printer that a big percentage of its work is on these packets. So I would like to ask that, I know it's going to take some time, so in a future meeting, I'd like to have an analysis done of going paperless, and so we can have a comparison and see if that might be something we want to do and possibly save money in the future. And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Joe Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to bump off of that statement. I think that there is potential savings there, but then on the flip side too, there's a lot of residents that don't use the electronic media. So I still think that we still need to provide something, So I think there's some potential savings there. So but I think we need to be careful too for some of the citizens that don't have computers or don't have ready access. Anyway, I just want to remind everybody, it was already brought up about Love Atwater. Remember to put that in your calendar again, April 5th at 8 o'clock. And it is a great activity. I'd just like to close tonight with my condolences to the family of Barney Rivera and Mr. Robert Wells.
Thank you. Jeff Rivera.
Yes, I'd just like to remind everybody that the Audit and Finance Committee meetings, March 24th, 3:30 p.m. here at the Chambers, and wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jeff Rivera. That's the 24th at 3:30. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
I, too, and would like to thank Wayne Wallace for all that he's contributed. He and his wife, they just did a great, great job. And so we'll just continue to move along, and it's something that we are working with to see if we can continue. But right now with we're so short of staff and everything that but it's a wonderful idea. We'll continue that. The paperless is a great idea, Mr. Bergman. But I kind of agree with Mr. Rivero that I kind of like the paper for my old age, but I can see where we can go both ways. And I think we kind of need to look at the cities that have gone paperless and the cities that I think have gone a little bit of both, and we can work it out so we can do it to do both.
Well, there's a difference between printing agendas that
Right.
we print here and then the entire packet that we get. That's
Right.
where there's a lot of the savings could be
Right.
had in just what we have.
Right.
I mean, we can have a stack like this at the end of the year on the agendas. I'm
That's
sure
correct.
you have the same thing in your office.
That's right, I do.
It's a lot of money that could be saved.
And I like to look at it because I have a terrible time with my computer. But anyway, I agree, Mr. Bergman, with you, and it's a good thought. And so, anyway, we need those thoughts to work towards reducing the expenses. So you're absolutely right. So, Mr. Mooneyham and Mr. Bergman, Councilman Bergman, have you been contacted by the Atwater, the Air Museum, right? The Air Museum for cooking on the 20?
I've already got my time.
Great, you got your time.
No one's contacted me, Mayor.
Okay, well,
Connie Hunter will be contacted.
yeah, but
I'm going through some personal
right, so
issues right
we'll
now.
just, we know about, and my prayers are with your father and your family, and we'll get through this. I will represent you, and I'll let them know, and they'll have an interesting time with my cooking. And then I think that Jeff Rivero is also going to do it, right, sir? And Joe, he's going to represent us on April 5th, and then he's going to, are you going to do the?
I'm cooking.
You're cooking also, okay? And I am doing dishes.
Good job for you.
That is a wonderful job. It's the only job that I can do.
Frank said he's cooking too, huh?
Yes, he is. He is cooking, yes. So we are,
We'll have Italian.
now, this coming the 15th, the last time you guys have to hear about me talking about the cleanup day till October. But the 15th of March, we are going to start at 7 o'clock receiving items. We will go to 2 o'clock. You should, if you're going to bring your items, you should have them here to the yard by 1:30, so we can get them in, get the trucks, and so they can get to the landfill by 4 o'clock. And we,
Don't get us started.
Man.
9 tires.
Don't get us started.
what?
Only
How
9
many tires?
Oh, tires. Oh, yeah, 9 tires. Yes, and e-waste. And the only thing you can't bring are oil and antifreeze. And you can come as many times as you want, and you have to be Atwater. You have to show proof of residence. With that, we will adjourn unless there's anything else. And then April 27th is the Air Museum's fundraising. Something else, okay. With that, we will take this moment to adjourn the meeting in memory of Barney Rivera, an outstanding citizen of the city of Atwater, and thank him for his service to our country. With that, the meeting is adjourned.